We are diving into one of the most foundational and, let's be honest, often one of the most frightening decisions an organization can make.
Mhm.
We're talking about choosing the backbone of your entire people strategy, selecting the right human resources information system or HRIS.
And this is a decision that really dictates your efficiency, your compliance, and even your culture for, what, the next 5 to 10 years?
Exactly. It's so much more than just an IT purchase. It's a huge strategic commitment.
It really is.
So our mission today is to cut through all the vendor noise. We've got piles of research here, Gartner surveys, implementation guides, and we want to turn all of that into a framework you can actually use.
Because the stakes are incredibly high. I mean, we know that something like 85% of organizations are already using HR tech.
Right.
But choosing the right tech can literally change your business. We're talking about reducing administrative overhead by 40% in the first year, or cutting onboarding time by 60%.
And the flip side of that is pretty scary. The wrong choice guarantees a costly, painful data migration, frustrated employees, and, well, a failed investment.
Totally.
So let's start at the very beginning. When we say HRIS, what are we actually talking about? What does this system do?
Simply put, an HRIS is the digital command center for your entire workforce. It's a single, centralized software platform.
The single source of truth.
Exactly. The single source of truth for everything. Employee demographics, compensation history, PTO balances, benefits, performance reviews. It all lives there.
And it's so fascinating how much these systems have moved beyond just being, a digital filing cabinet. It's not just where you store your I-9s anymore.
Oh, not at all. It's a dynamic platform built for strategy. I mean, our sources show that just integrating an applicant tracking system in ATS can reduce your time to fill by 35%.
Wow.
And they have to be mobile first now for distributed teams, and many even include modules for employee engagement and recognition. They've shifted from being systems of record to systems of engagement.
That brings us to the first major question I think anyone listening is asking. What is the measurable ROI? What are the hard numbers that justify what can be a pretty significant expense?
The ROI is immediate, and it's compelling. Imagine cutting 42% of your administrative time.
42%.
That's the average reduction organizations are reporting in the first year, according to Gartner's latest survey. And that number immediately translates into, huge cost savings and lets the HR team breathe.
So let's break that down. How does that 42% reduction actually happen? I imagine a lot of it comes from getting rid of manual processes.
Precisely. If you're still running core HR off shared spreadsheets, well, you know that late night panic when you realize a number was typed wrong?
Oh, the cascading disaster.
It's a massive liability. Simple data entry errors can lead to payroll mistakes or, even worse, serious compliance gaps. And I can only imagine the impact on employee trust when their pay is wrong.
It's devastating.
It is. A modern HRIS makes these mistakes pretty much impossible. For example, with a seamless payroll integration, new hire data just flows automatically from onboarding into a system like ADP. No duplicate entry, which means accuracy is protected right from day one.
So the system moves beyond just, processing data. It's actually generating intelligence that you can act on. That feels like the key strategic leap.
It absolutely is. HR shifts from reactive firefighting to proactive strategy. With real-time insights, you're not waiting for the annual review. You can spot turnover trends 6 months out.
How? By tracking engagement data.
Exactly. Engagement data, sentiment analysis. You can optimize recruiting spend by tracking your true cost per hire, and maybe most critically, you can run continuous compensation equity analysis. That's vital for fairness and for legal protection.
Okay, so if the system is holding all this sensitive data, we have to talk about compliance and security. What are the absolute non-negotiables here?
This is where the highest liability lives, so you have to get this right. You're dealing with different labor laws in every state, global regulations like GDPR.
All the government forms.
All the forms, right. I-9 and E-Verify need to be automated. You need configurable approval change, financial controls for things like SOX compliance to prevent fraud. That accountability has to be built in.
And what about just the raw digital protection of the data itself?
You have to demand enterprise-grade encryption, both when the data is moving, that's in transit, and when it's just sitting on the server, which is at rest.
Okay.
And the absolute minimum certification you should accept is SOC2 Type 2. That verifies the vendor has strict internal controls on security, privacy, all of it. And for regulated fields like healthcare, you need industry-specific features for things like iPay.
That's a critical checklist. Let's pivot now to the wider impact. We've talked about the admin benefits, but this system doesn't operate in a vacuum. How does it affect everyone else? Let's start with the employee.
For employees, it's all about empowerment. The modern workforce just expects a consumer-grade experience at work. They shouldn't have to email HR to check their vacation balance.
Right, they should just be able to pull out their phone and see it.
Exactly. Instant access to pay stubs, submitting PTO with real-time status updates, tracking their own performance goals. Getting rid of that friction is a huge driver of engagement.
And for organizations with, say, frontline teams or distributed workers, this isn't just a nice to have, it's essential.
It's absolutely critical. We found a stat that 47% of U.S. employees don't have regular access to a desktop computer at work.
Almost half the workforce.
Yep. Think about a nurse, a construction worker, a retail associate. If your HRIS doesn't have full functionality on a native mobile app, you have fundamentally failed almost half your people. Mobile first is mandatory.
So what about the HR leaders themselves? How does this transform their day-to-day?
It finally lets them make that shift from administrative support to being a true strategic partner. A Deloitte report showed that CHROs at top companies spend 60% less time on admin tasks because the HRIS handles it.
60%.
And that frees them up to spend 3 times more effort on actual workforce strategy.
3 times? That is massive. What are they focusing that newfound time on?
Well, they're building custom dashboards for the C-suite, monitoring diversity metrics in real time, calculating the true cost per hire, which includes ramp-up time. These are the insights that earn HR a seat at the table.
And at the end of the day, the C-suite wants to know about the bottom line. How does a smoother HR system actually affect the company's earnings?
The connection is direct, and it's through engagement. A recent Gallup report showed that companies with highly engaged employees outperform their competitors by a staggering 147% in earnings per share.
147%. That is a massive competitive advantage just based on how your employees feel.
It is, and the HRIS powers that experience. The financial return is easy to see. Lower turnover costs, you're saving thousands prevented resignation faster onboarding, and avoiding massive penalties from the IRS or the DOL.
That sets the stage perfectly. We've established the why. Now let's get to the core of this deep dive. The how. We've distilled our sources into an 8-point evaluation checklist for you to use. Let's start with number 1.
Point 1 is workflow automation. I mean, if you're buying a new system, the goal has to be automating as much manual work as humanly possible. We see clients cutting onboarding time by 60% and paperwork errors by 90% just with good workflows.
So what are the specific features that get you there?
You need highly customizable workflows that trigger tasks not just for HR, but for IT to get a laptop ready, for the manager to schedule check-ins. E-signature has to be built in. And this is critical. Don't just focus on onboarding. Your system needs to manage offboarding.
Ah, the painful part.
The very painful part. Scheduling exit interviews, tracking IT assets, and revoking system access on time. That last one is a huge security risk if you do it manual.
Okay, so point number 2 is about looking ahead. Scalability.
Yes, because nothing is worse than outgrowing your system in 2 years and facing a migration that can cost anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000.
And that's not just the vendor fee, right?
Not at all. It's the lost productivity and the risk of corrupting your data. You have to make sure the HRIS can handle your current headcount, plus, I'd say, at least 5x growth. And if you're looking globally, you need multi-currency support, localized compliance, all of that.
That flows right into point 3, which, according to our research, is the single biggest reason these projects fail.
It is. It's user experience and adoption. The warning here is stark. 67% of HRIS implementations fail their adoption targets because the UX is terrible.
And if no one uses it, the ROI is 0.
Exactly. So you have to evaluate the experience for 3 different groups: HR admins, managers, and employees. Is it intuitive for everyone, especially on that crucial mobile app?
Let's hit security again for point 4. This is where all your most sensitive data lives. What's the ultimate checklist?
So security, compliance, and data protection. Beyond that SOC2 cert we mentioned, you have to demand role-based access controls, RBAC. This is what controls who sees what.
So a hiring manager can't see salary data for people outside their team.
Precisely. You also need comprehensive audit trails that track every single change made to employee data. That is your proof of compliance if you ever get audited.
Okay, moving on to number 5, which is about connecting the HRIS to everything else. Integration capabilities.
Payroll is non-negotiable. ADP, UKG, you name it. But you have to ask a deeper question. Is the integration native, meaning the HRIS vendor built it, or is it a partner integration.
Why does that matter so much?
Because if it's native and something breaks, you have one phone call to make. If it's a partner integration, you could get stuck in the middle with both vendors pointing fingers at each other while your payroll is on the line.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. Point 6 takes us into the future of HR.
Reporting, analytics, and business intelligence. You need a system that moves past telling you what happened to predicting who might leave.
The so-called flight risk analysis.
Exactly. Look for custom report builders, trend analysis, and predictive models, all displayed on real-time dashboards for your execs.
Number 7 brings us back to that distributed workforce.
Mobile capabilities, that 47% statistic again, it is mandatory. You need native apps, not just a shrunken website on a phone. Native apps allow for push notifications for schedule changes and even a kiosk mode for shared devices in a break room.
And finally, the 8th point. The human element.
Vendor support and implementation success. Implementation failure rates are high, so you have to vet the vendor's process. Ask for their typical timeline. It should be 4 to 8 weeks from mid-market, not 6 months. Ask who leads the project and demand 204/7 support.
That is a rock-solid framework. Yeah. Now let's contextualize this a bit, because a 50-person company has totally different needs than a global enterprise. How does size change the game?
It really changes the complexity you need and the price point. For small companies, say, under 50 employees, the focus is simplicity and cost. They just need core HR and payroll.
And then there's that middle ground.
Yeah, the 50 to 249 employee sweet spot. That's where you really need to prioritize scalability, multi-location support, and those robust mobile features.
What about the big guys, over 1,000 employees?
They often lean toward enterprise platforms like Workday or UKG for their complex global needs. But, and this is a key finding, a lot of high-end mid-market solutions can deliver 90% of what they need for about 50% of the cost. So it really pays to shop around.
And we also have to touch on industry specifics, because compliance is never one size fits all.
Absolutely. If you're in healthcare, your HRIS has to handle HIPAA. In construction, it's OSHA record keeping. Public sector, it's union rules. The system has to adapt to your industry's regulation.
Last context point. A single unified platform versus stitching together a bunch of different specialized tools.
Well, the data is very clear on this. Gartner research shows that unified platforms lead to 35% higher user satisfaction and a 28% lower total cost of ownership.
So simplicity wins.
Simplicity and a consistent experience win out almost every time.
So we've established the new strategic value of an HRIS. It simplifies operations, gives you a 40% reduction in admin work, and it drives engagement that can lead to massive financial outperformance.
It truly lays the foundation for a modern strategic HR function.
So we said that the right system can automate roughly 60% of the administrative tasks HR leaders are currently buried in. And that creates this strategic vacuum.
Yeah.
A huge amount of freed up time that has to be filled.
Right. And that raises a really important question for you, the listener, to think about. If your HRIS successfully takes on that huge transactional burden, what is the new strategic mission that HR leaders should pivot their now available 60% of time toward? Is the ultimate focus on culture and retention? Is it advanced workforce planning? Or is it something else entirely that will define the future of HR?
A vital question to chew on as you evaluate the digital backbone of your people strategy. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.